Welcome, writers. I'm Harule Stokes from HaruleStokes.com, here to share some great writing information about a bunch of nonsense rules and BS. Before we get started, pop that little bell icon so you can be notified of all future videos. Now, let's get to work. This will be the first entry to my How to Write a Novel series for beginners, where I'll be giving a breakdown of the steps each writer should take when they want to start writing their very first novel. So, step one is decide your path. Simple, no? Or is it? Now, it may seem simple, but some people don't know the difference between fiction and nonfiction. This is the two most basic choices, but not always the most simple. Fiction is, let's start with fiction. It's for all accounting purposes. Fiction is basically pulling the story out of your ass. It's making it up. On the other side, nonfiction can include anything that's true to life occurrences, real life events, historical events, someone's life story, including your own. So if it's real, it's nonfiction. Now that little gap is confusing us some. Now let me just say this. Nonfiction doesn't mean it has to be a history book. You can still write compelling prose, and both fiction and nonfiction, especially nonfiction, is important because no one's going to be interested in some boring ass novel about your life that reads like a dictionary. It's not going to happen. I mean, sure, if you're selling nonfiction to like a school or something, I guess it doesn't have to be compelling or even a fun read at all. But if you're going to be selling to the public, you are going to have to make it interesting somehow. And that's the hard part of nonfiction. And just to note, if you're going to be altering the events in some way because you want to jazz it up, it's not nonfiction anymore. That's fiction. Because again, you're pulling something out of your ass. Sure, you can put a comment in there that says like, based on real life occurrences. But you can't actually alter the events. I mean, you can talk about it and make it cool in that respect, but you can't alter what people said or what they've done. That means it's not nonfiction. All right? Now, on to choosing a topic number 2. This part is generally easy for some writers. Like, it's easy for me. I have too many stories in my head, not too few. But if you are struggling to find a topic to write about, just look around. Check the news, read blogs, check writing websites is a good idea too. I mean, other writers are always dropping those weird little writing prompts and they want you to add stuff just to flex your writing chops. So how about this? Take one of those prompts, make it a story. In fact, I recently participated in a Facebook writing prompt thing, and it really sparked my interest. In fact, it sparked me so much that I copied what I wrote and dropped it into my, do something with this folder. I'm sure you guys have one too. But if you're still if you don't have enough, try looking at movies and TVs. I mean, it's no big deal to take a fragment of someone else's story and use that little sliver of thought and expand it into a novel. I mean, copying it, that's not cool. But, just taking a portion of it or a scene and making that scene into something, a whole different movie altogether. Just using that to spark your interest and imagination. And don't limit yourself to something that's cool, that's currently out, like vampires or talking monkeys, whatever. Use what works for you. Number 3 is voice. That's going to be tricky. What I mean by voice. Okay, let's start with this. What I don't mean by voice is I'm not talking about developing your writer's voice. That's something people don't plan on doing. And, well, in my opinion, the writer's voice is what they focus on. It's the ideas. It's what's important to them. It's what they gravitate you, the reader, to. Shit, I mean, even the stuff you draw readers' attention to, like you color in a wall or somebody's shoes, that's about you. That tells us who you are. And that you can't help but interject into the story that you're creating. Even if it's nonfiction, the specific things you bring into focus on or you make the reader look at, that reflects you. That's about you, and that's what's important to you. And I mean, just looking at my own writing, I have a tendency to focus on the character's state of mind it's really important to me to tell the reader that person's viewpoint, and because I do that, I focus on that person's viewpoint. It's really important to me to have the reader see that character's thoughts, and because of that, I went to do Fallen Sun and Sectors in first person, and that's part of the voice that I'm talking about. It's how you're portraying the story. Who's the focal point of your story? Is it you? I mean, are you telling the story? Is it one of the characters? I mean, it doesn't have to be the main character, but who's telling the story? It has to be someone. I mean, it could be a sidekick, it could be a spirit, it could be anybody telling the story. It's whatever the hell you want it to be. Which now brings us back to first person, which is what I wrote my first two books in. And that's about perspective. First person perspective is telling the story from a character in the story that just happened to be watching or experiencing that story. So, if you're writing in that style, you have lots of I's, like I thought, I think, I want, all of that stuff. So it's a good idea for the writer to actively become one of the characters. You have to literally act as one of the characters. Like if you're going to write about Batman, you better be ready to think like you are Batman if you're writing in first person. Then there's a really oddball one, second person. I have never touched second person. Honestly, it just seems like a really weird thing to do, where the writer is talking to the reader directly and saying a lot of, you. Like there's literally talking to you and asking you about what's happening. I mean, there are writers out there who love to write in it. I've never written in it. But, I mean, if you're writing in it and you're doing a lot of yous, cool, I guess. I mean, I haven't read any, and if you know any, post them below so I can check them out. The only ones I've ever seen were those weird Dungeons and Dragon books where the book asks the reader to pick a choice, and then from that choice go to a specific page. And there, some gruesome outcome happens where I always end up dying. That's why I don't like those books, but I never win them. Now the big one, the most popular one is third person. This perspective is used like all the time. It has like this huge amount of power in it. Like you have no restrictions. You can do anything you want. You're basically God. You can see people's heads. You know what they're thinking. You know what's happening. You're all over the place. But you can restrict yourself. I mean, third, it's possible to restrict yourself if you want to, and that's up to you. But you don't have to limit anything. It's really third is the most popular because it's the most powerful one. And in third person, you're writing a lot of, you're talking externally, so it's he, she, they. It's never you and I. Actually, I wrote my short story, Cost of Power, in third person, and after writing 2 books in first person, it was stupid hard to write it, to shift your mind to third person. So, in fact, you know what? I wrote my first book, Sectors. I started it in third person, and I promptly deleted that thing because it was terrible. I'm just not good in it yet. I'm working at it. And also, if you're gonna write something, don't delete it. It's really important for you to look back on it. I wish I didn't delete that, so I can. It's probably not even that bad. I just think it's so bad. But nowadays I tend to save my stuff, so it's always good to look back on what you've done before. But I'm getting off track. Theme is number 3. The definition of a theme. It's I believe it's an idea or a point that is central to the story. And a story can actually have more than one theme. And so it's important to remember. This is something that's really important to remember. Your theme and topic are not the same thing. The topic of the story is what the characters are experiencing in the piece. So if it's an adventure story, sci-fi, horror, whatever, that's a topic. Like if you're a character, if all your characters are getting together to save the universe from some evil, that's the topic. That's not the theme. The theme is usually an underlying message of the story that's conveying something to the reader, like psychically or whatever. I'm joking. Anyway, it's not direct. You're not addressing it directly. It's kind of hidden in a way, but it's really what you're really trying to say about the story. Going back to my novel Fallen Sun, that topic revolved around the main character Jocelyn Martinez and her wanting to save her friends who were in serious jeopardy of being killed. That's war. People get killed in war. But that's what she wanted to do. She wanted to keep them alive. And that's the topic, but not the theme. In fact, I never directly talk about the theme in Fallen Sun. In fact, there are two themes in Fallen Sun, and I'm thinking about it. The first theme is based on Martin Luther King Jr. quote that I've always loved. It's darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Now, to me, that quote is so powerful. And it really brings up the idea for me that love is the true power that we're fighting for. I mean, and love is, you can't use hate to defeat intolerance and prejudice. That won't work. You have to bring that love into it. In fact, the reason we even fight a war, or any war, is because we love our country. And in fact, let's drill down even further. We love the people in our country. We love our city or our town or our neighbors. We love the people. We don't really care about this idea of lines on the map. That's irrelevant. And Fallen Sun kind of touches on that for me. And with that theme about love being so powerful. But the second theme is my kind of other way I've thought about these stories, where it's more about the perspectives that the characters are dealing with. Like, for example, if you're driving down a road or you're on a highway and someone cuts you off, you get pissed and you call them all types of terrible names. I know I do that all the time. But what you didn't know is that person was rushing to the hospital. What if that's the reason that they're doing that? I mean, you didn't know that. How would you know that? You're not in their heads. But if I were told a story that way, where they were driving along and they cut someone off because they were rushing to the hospital, like, we'd look at you like you were the problem, not that dude, which is interesting, right? Just change your perspective around and it's all changed. That's it for this one. So the next video is talking about setup. So if you want to be notified, subscribe and hit the bell icon. All right? I'll see you guys there. No excuses, just right. Peace.